The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and when you choose to go on it, you think it's real, because that's how powerful our minds are.
I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is.
Don't think, feel. It is like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Hey, Nick, so I was wondering, I've seen you posting regularly about knives and other weapons, and I'm just wondering, what is that about? Do you suppose it's an extension of your maleness or your warrior, the culture that you've been in for so long, just manifesting itself in a different way where you're like, now I'm super interested in devastating weapons beyond what you can do with your body, because you're pretty much a lethal weapon yourself, right? I mean, you're a jiu-jitsu black belt. So what is the fascination? Because I have my own reasons. I think it's awesome. I'm just curious, what is the fascination of late with knives, guns, etc.?
Man, I'm so happy you asked that question, because it definitely is a fascination. I think it goes beyond just knives in particular. I think I'm starting to realize that I am completely enamored with and in awe of engineering in general. The more I look around the modern world, and just little things, like I'm sitting in this room now and I'm looking at this steel and glass structure that's been used to create it, and it blows my mind, dude. Engineering is just such a fascinating thing. I remember listening to an episode of Top Gear, which is a famous show about cars in the UK, and the host Jeremy Clarkson, he was degrading and ranting about hippies because he hates hippies, and he said hippies solve nothing, unlike engineers, which solve everything, make our lives better. And realize engineering is to thank for the massive increase in the standard of living we all have compared to our ancestors. And a knife is, I mean, especially the knife I just got, man, if you look at this thing, it's this incredible tool. It's been machined so precisely and it's made of the best quality material, and you just hold it in your hand and I'll be sitting there looking at it and I'll realize, I mean, fuck, this has come so far from my great ancestor who had a fucking club or a rock or something and was using that to chisel away something. And I look at this knife and I'm like, this thing is fucking incredible. And I just think that it's cool for a man to have a knife, dude. It's just like I feel different when I'm walking around with it. It's that added, I have an added set of abilities and capabilities. Right? I mean, not just self-defense or anything, but I have a tool with me at all times that I can use to do whatever, bro. And it's just, I don't know, I think it's kind of cool.
Well, I've actually seen that knife in use with you. I remember taking a walk one time, and dude, you were slicing the grass like nobody's business. Like Death with his side, that was you with your little knife, just chopping little pieces of grass.
Actually, that was a different knife. I gave that one to a buddy, and the new one I have now is an even better one. This one's way bigger. It's leaps and bounds different from our ancestors' clubs and such, but it's still pretty much one of the most primitive tools there is, right? I mean, it's the same edge that the Bronze Age warriors were using, to cut and slice. So in that way, it's almost the most primitive weapon you can have besides a sharp stick, and yet it's made with modern materials, and it's just such a beautiful thing. How do you get to use it? Dude, I wish I could say it was as awesome and exciting as me fighting crime and breaking up fights and defending myself with it, but it usually just ends up I'll cut little pieces with my cuticle or something I mean, what happened this morning, my girlfriend had she wears these bracelets, these woven bracelets, and one of them was frayed and she wanted to take it off, and she's like, can you help me? And I just cut it off, and it's usually nothing very glamorous, but just the fact
That's
that
pretty
I have
glamorous.
it is kind of cool. How would you use a knife? Let's say I hypothetically bought you a knife for your birthday.
You know, it's so my sister got me a really nice knife from Japan, a chef's
I'll
knife.
be the judge of that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. She got me this beautiful knife that was made in this tiny village in Japan, you know, by an old master, and I happen to use it every single day. It's one that I need to sharpen at 20 degrees on a sharpening stone, and it's oh man, there's a leaf blower that's going off right now that's killing me. Can you hear that?
No.
Okay, well then I'm gonna just keep going. I use it every single day, and I think about it every time I use it. You know, it's a beautiful piece. It fits in my hand just right. But I'm using it utilitarian, like I'm slicing tomatoes and slicing vegetables for the most part. And when I need to clean up a leg of lamb, I'm using that same knife, and I sharpen it regularly.
Food preparation. Basically.
Always food preparation. If I had one like you gave me, I think I would still just try and use it in feeding myself regularly because I can't see any other application for it for me right now. I would love to like stab something with it, but I don't know what that would be. Like,
well, I have to think about, you know, there's these crazy like survivalist dudes who are always. Do you know what a bug out bag is? Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. So I mean, I find it fascinating, the concept of the bug out bag, because I mean, I wonder if these guys are really gonna, like, let's say then something happens and there's a mass breakdown of all civilization and all infrastructure just grinds to a halt. I mean, are these dudes really going to last that much longer than the rest of us? Or maybe will they eke out an extra couple of days and all the thugs that didn't prepare a bug out bag will just somehow pick up a club and beat the guy who didn't make a bug out bag and take his stuff from him? I don't know, but I kind of like this idea, or having that knife kind of comforts me in a little way that, fuck, dude, if there is some sort of dramatic situation, whether it be, I don't know, 5 guys jump my girlfriend and I, or I'm in a car wreck and I have to cut myself out of a seatbelt, or whatever it is, like, it's just having that extra ability. It's like an extra upgrade that as a hominid walking around has. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And when you put it like that, it does. It makes. I'm like, well, shit. Where's my knife? Where's my extension in case I get into one of those scraps? And I think it's a thing you don't really think about until you need it, and then you go, oh shit, I wish I had a really nice knife right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly the case.
Well, no, but what about guns and stuff? Because that's totally different, right? And it seems like the knife is like the gateway weapon into explosives and things that are even more devastating. So how about your interest in firearms? Has that also increased of late, or is that just my cherry picking your Facebook posts?
Man, I love guns. Don't get me wrong. And again, it all ties into that engineering and military thing. And I think, like, if you're a male, there is some sort of weird DNA encoding in you that you are fascinated by war and military exploits and weaponry and things like that. And I think guns are fascinating. Like, would I want to carry one around? Not really, because I just find that it brings with it a huge added layer of complexity to your life. Like, you have to check it when you go to certain buildings, and I mean, people are going to give you completely strange looks sometimes, and it's just, I don't know. I don't want the issues that happen with carrying around a gun, but maybe if I lived in a different society, I would. At this point, no. What about you? Do you own any guns, or do you plan to get any guns?
I don't own any, but I sure love going to the firing range and just to shoot it in that power. But it does do weird things to me psychologically, so maybe I wouldn't be a good gun owner. I remember last time I had it in my hand, just looking at it, like, man, there's just so much potential destruction. Like, what if I just turned around and started blasting people? And I'm sure everybody thinks that at least at some point, not like this is something I want to do because I'm a crazy psycho, but like, what would happen if I just squeezed off there and there and there and there? it's not even any aggression or violence in me. It's just like, Zach, you're like this far away from being able to do that. And it's just your own moral and ethical responsibility to fire that thing at the target.
Yeah.
And it's something that's weird. Maybe it's a comic book thing or a movie thing, but like I like to just shoot them off at the target, but I also like to go, bam, 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 shoot them really fast too. It's just probably seen too many movies.
Yeah,
but
you need to play Grand Theft Auto, bud.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Well,
that'll get that right out of your system.
It's not even in my system though until I pick up that firearm or that weapon and I go. It's sort of like walking to the edge of a precipice of a cliff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's you feel that potential for massive consequence that you don't really get in your day-to-day life, going to the gym and chopping vegetables. I guess a little bit when you're chopping the vegetables, but like your day-to-day interactions don't have those extreme consequences attached to them until you do things like extreme sports, or like I tell you what, anytime I paddle into the sea and it's a little bit bigger, I think about it. And I was just recently in Mexico and surfing all alone, and it was very strange how the word shark kept coming back into my head. And I was like, this is fucked up. Let me shut this down. It's going to spiral out of control and manifest itself in some nasty fear. So I try to stay distracted. And, fortunately, the current was strong enough that I had to keep paddling to a place where I was in a good position to catch waves. But you put yourself in a position of consequence, and all of a sudden, it's a game changer, or it could be.
And it takes exposure to get to the point where that voice subsides or doesn't really rear its head anymore. I know for me, when I'm on a plane, for the first maybe 200 or 300 flights I took, I'd sometimes just get that thought in my mind, like similar to the shark. I'd get like crash. That would kind of play through my mind a few times. It's sometimes, especially. When I find, fortunately I don't smoke weed that much anymore, but I find towards the tail end of my weed smoking years, weed smoking would trigger those kind of thoughts in different circumstances and scenarios, especially ones that weren't even as extreme or consequential as being on a plane or being in a surfboard in the middle of the ocean. It might even just be something like walking down the road and then you'd think mugging or like car crash or whatever it is, and it's just paranoia basically.
That's exactly what that is. But it's also a built-in biological mechanism, right? I mean, isn't that, for the most part, it's for protection, like your snap judgment of things, which is why that book Influence by Cialdini is so interesting. It's like we all have these. It's how we know that we're trying to be sold, or that somebody's dangerous, or that a situation isn't quite right. But it can easily work against you where you're like shark or crash or,
well, some might argue that it is working against you in ways that you can't even know. Like, I mean, you could probably make an argument that if you looked around your room right now and saw 30 possessions or commodities that you had purchased, how many of them were purchased because some sort of psychological trigger was flicked by a smart marketing professional? Do you know what I mean? We don't know. I mean, I
probably 30 of them, all 30.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, it's an interesting thing to think about, just how, I think mechanistic is probably the word I'm looking for as human beings. People always say, oh, we're just animals, but the more I study it, the more I realize we're just machines, bro. Machines.
Really?
Literally, like the human physiology is a mechanism that responds to stimuli in very predictable ways. And something I always have on my mind is the sciences of psychology and other behavioral sciences are relatively new. And already we've figured out so much about what makes people tick. We only have to look at marketers to see how well they can manipulate us. And I wonder what will happen in 200 to 300 years when they have the human organism completely figured out. Like they understand every little tweak. Like they can make you feel X units of sadness or X units of excitement or whatever through very, very precise or very subtle stimuli. I wonder it's exciting and terrifying.
I think there'll probably be a big movement like you and I were discussing in the past about just trying to stay away from the virtual scream, the people vying for your attention. I think probably people will realize that it's all a big ploy to get you to spend your money. So whether it's through virtual validation or things that need to be bought or whatever, I think you'll see a lot of people. Maybe they've been saying that for eons, that eventually there'll be a movement back to nature. But it seems like that's pretty much the only place you can avoid the sale.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of conjecture surrounding this area, but it's my personal belief at this point that by the time it gets to the point where we are that easily manipulated, money won't even be a thing. I think it'll be a pure energy exchange. Somehow they will have figured out how to extract and transmit life force in exchange for goods or services, because that's ultimately what money is, right? It's concentrated life energy or life force. Like you go to work and you earn, I don't know, two grand a week, let's say, hypothetically speaking. Like that is your life energy that you've put into whatever it took to acquire that wealth or that money, and then you exchange it for things you need, or you do whatever you want with it. And eventually, I mean, if you think about it, it's still a reasonably crude system. I mean, it came from the barter system where you'd give your buddy a cow for 6 seashells or whatever, and then money became a unit of exchange. But it's still an intermediary step between pure energy exchange, which leads me to something else I find fascinating, which is the concept of money changing hands in relationships.
Really?
Yes, I find that very interesting. I mean, that's what I think I like about, I don't know, going to a prostitute, how that changes everything, right? I mean, because, I mean, if you're with a girlfriend of someone you love, like you would never pay them for the sexual act. It's an energy, it is a pure energy exchange, or do you know what I mean? Or like when you're with a buddy, like there's no financial implications or in that. Whereas as soon as you add money into an interaction, it changes everything completely. I find that a fascinating field of study. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
It isn't money the number one thing that destroys relationships? Isn't that cited as the number one thing? I mean, I'm trying to think of all the relationships that I was in where money was eventually a factor, and it's probably like half of them. You know, where the burden is on one or the other in the party, and the growing resentment, and it takes away your power to be you, because again you're in an obligatory, almost a debtor's position, or you're the dettee. I don't know what it is. You either have the power or you have no power because of the currency exchange, you know, and who's footing the bill. And having been on both sides of that, it's stressful both ways, and it creates nastiness in you that never would have existed if that wasn't even an issue. You know, it brings up stuff that I don't know if it's really old and brings out the hoarder in people or what, but it definitely makes for just grossness between people. People are never as gross as they are than when they're dealing with money.
I have an expression I've used more than a few times in the last couple of years, and that is that money can really fuck people up. I've seen some people who have just become so twisted, and I hope we as a species, I'm in two minds about the whole thing, because I've said before, money seems sometimes as if you use the analogy that like the human experience or what's happening on this planet is a game or like a simulation or something that our souls have chosen to come and do, then money does kind of have its place, because it extracts value, or it forces more play potential out of that game and simulation. Like because I mean, you have to learn and grow and develop to get money. You just have, most people do, right? I mean,
Sure.
and in fact, it's interesting if that's violated. We've spoken about this before with trust fund kids. Their game degrades really quickly. Like they usually become very depressed or bored, or as your girlfriend once said to me, you guys have a friend who's a trust fund kid. Like there's no sense of risk involved in anything he does, so he doesn't actually get that like joy out of life.
Right.
So in a way, I appreciate that aspect of money, is that it forces us to all play the game more. But at the same time, like you said, it creates a lot of ugliness in this world.
Well, I should make myself clear, because do not think that money is the problem. I think that people have a responsibility to deal with their surfeit or dearth of money, as it may be. And if that act causes you to act differently, that's on you. It's not like money is money is neutral. It may be energy, but it's not like making you good or bad. That's you. And if you allow yourself to change personally because of how much or how little you have, that's completely your responsibility. I think we've entered a place where no one takes responsibility for anything. I mean, just go to the grocery store and see how many people can be bothered to put their fucking shopping carts back where the shopping carts go.
Interesting.
They leave them by their cars. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're an adult. Why would you do that? You fuck the next person who's trying to get into that parking spot. It's disgusting. You're a pig. Put your shit back,
Yeah.
And it's like, of course, if you can't even be bothered to do a little thing like pay it forward at the grocery store, I can only imagine that having $1 million or losing it is going to make you better or worse.
Yeah, well, Steve Tyler from Aerosmith, I remember watching an interview with him, and he said, fame and wealth are just magnifies of whatever else you are, or whatever else is going on in your life.
Right.
Which, dude, I think I've mentioned it to you before, maybe even on one of these podcasts, and that is that statistic about lottery winners. I'd say most of the time, I can't remember what the exact statistic was, but people who win the lottery within 5 years are not only just as broke as they were before, but very often it's brought tremendous negative consequences into their life.
Right. Yeah, you have mentioned that.
Which
is crazy.
That blows my mind, dude. And if I look back at myself, dude, just my own personal thing, like, I mean, now that I'm starting to earn decent money through my business and stuff, I wasn't ready to handle that kind of money when I was, 18. I would have done really fucking stupid things with it,
Yeah, but nobody wins the lottery when they're 18. In fact, no one I know or no one I've ever even known has known of someone who's won the lottery. I'm still not sure that the lottery is real.
Yeah, I think it's bullshit because I've never won it.
Exactly. I don't have anecdotal evidence that it actually is a real thing. So no, but you're right. Most people probably aren't ready for it if they're too young, and by the time they're super old, if they come into it, well, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they use it for good things. Yeah. But we've certainly meandered away from weapons, and I just want to finish there because I'm just curious. So, do you suppose that you will become a collector of weapons? Are you going to be? Would you consider yourself a collector already? And is that something that you plan to make space? A wing of your house will be the weapons wing.
Dude, so at this point, I only own one knife.
Okay.
So
I'm a little disappointed to hear that, but go on.
Unfortunately. But keep in mind, I only own 5 T-shirts and 3 pairs of shoes. So it's kind of it's in keeping with the same theme. But I have this idea, this very specific vision of eventually when I stop this nomadic lifestyle, of what I want where I live, my home to be. And one of the things it does include, it's actually a 2-part thing. In one room in the house, I'm going to have a katana, a proper Japanese katana handcrafted by a master on a stand. That'll be the centerpiece of that room. And my 10 closest friends, I want to present each of them with one of those as well.
Wow.
And this is the kicker, bro. On each of the blades, I'm going to engrave a little slogan about them. Like, so for example, my business partner, Mark, he's a doctor, so his one is going to say the healing man, and then my best friend Sergio is the guy who makes me laugh more than anything. So his will be funny man. And I just thought that would be kind of cool, like my little tribe. We'd all have our own katanas. I have way too much time on my hands, bro. So
That's great. I love that you have the inscriptions for your gift katanas already sorted. That's amazing. What a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
What you were saying, it just made me. How are we doing on time? Are we okay?
Yeah, we got to wrap it up soon.
Okay, a quick question that made me think of. Do you think we'll see the passing of the age of people who are masterful, and that will all be transmitted to machines? In other words, a master katana maker, that's got to be a dying art, you know?
Man, that's such a good question. It's something I think about way too much. I think actually, like, as the world becomes more homogenized and people start to become more and more jaded by just how banal and boring everything, or a vast majority of the things become, that individuals who have these incredibly niche, incredibly specific skill sets that they've practiced or taken to a level of mastery will become more and more sought after, and that in turn will kickstart a resurgence in the popularity of those crafts. But when that will happen, who knows? What do you think?
It seems like it's all just dying right in front of us, and it's being supplanted with just completely vacuous entertainment that we can't even remember by Monday morning. You know what I mean? I was just asking friends recently about the last great movie they saw, and they're like, "Oh, I saw one this weekend." I was like, "Well, what was it about?" They're like,
I forgot.
I couldn't tell you. It was pretty cool though. But it's like everything is in that space of pretty cool instead of, yeah, that's a master who spent his entire life making a sword good. Of course, I'm a terrible person to ask because I'm an advocate of, doing many things, of aspiring to be a polymath rather than specialization. So I think that if enough people do what I'm doing, yeah, maybe there'll be no masters left.
But think about this. If you eliminate distractions and wasted time from your life, and you were really focused on how you went about it, mastering 3 to 5 skills in your lifetime would not be difficult at all.
No,
really
not at all.
I mean, Leonardo da Vinci, the jury's out, but apparently he was running a different set of hardware, and his brain was wired in a specific way. And that guy, he must have had like 15 to 20 skills that he was just a complete savant with. So there's hope for you, right?
That's what I'm going with. That's the story I'm going to stick to. Yeah, there's hope. We'll see.
Dude, it's been awesome. I really enjoyed that conversation. I needed that. I was a bit too much in my own head. If anyone out there listening enjoyed this, I would, Thomas and I would both greatly appreciate it if you would leave a review for us on iTunes, and also share the show with any of your friends or family you think might enjoy this.
Yes. And with that, we'll see you next time.
Until next time.